Scott. Welcome back. Going to do some more work on the 73 Commando today and give you a few updates and kind of what I've been doing and where I'm at. In the introduction video, I noted that it didn't run and drive. So my first priority is to get it to at least run so I can check the brakes, make sure it'll move. When I bought it, the owners had mentioned that it didn't start and run. It would start, but it wouldn't stay running. When I went to pick it up, they actually had one of those starter switches hooked up on the solenoid to actually prove to me that it would start. But sure enough, if you let go of the switch, it would die. So it would only actually stay running if you kept the starter engaged. Obviously, that's a problem. So my first step was to try to figure out why it's doing that and make it run. Obviously, a car is not going to run without a battery. This didn't have one. So step one was to get myself a new battery. Battery's installed. Check and make sure we've got full charge, about 12.5 volts. Brand new battery, it should be fine. One thing I ran into with this right out of the gate is you'll notice my negative post is hooked up to the red cable and the positive hooked up to the black cable. Whoever worked on this in the past decided it would be a good idea to use a red cable for the negative and a black for the positive. But it's always a good idea to check and make sure that you know where it's going so you don't start a fire. So with that, I have my negative lead hooked up here, and I just want to check and make sure that I get 12 volts down here to my starter solenoid. And I do. So I know that the wiring here, at least I'm getting power from here down to the solenoid. The next step is going to be checking to make sure that the ignition switch will actually send power and control the power on the solenoid. So let's head in the car and we'll look at that. When I got this Jeep, this ignition switch, I believe is brand new. It was just installed, or at least not the original. It was kind of hanging down under here with the rest of this project work. So I reinstalled it in here, and everything seems to be working. I did need to, the next step with this, to turn it on just into run position, not start, and then check under the hood and see if we have voltage at the solenoid again. So now back out here, I should actually have power down to the ignition part of the solenoid, and I do, the same voltage I get at the battery, so there's no drop there. And I should also have power back here to the positive side of the coil, which I can get through all the grease. I do. At this point, I didn't actually try to start the car, but I guess the next step, if you want to do that, to make sure that you can actually get the run or the start part of the switch to work, you can unhook the ignition coil. So we can just unhook it from right here. So that way the car will turn over, but it won't actually try to crank. So we'll hang that over here where it's not going to spark anywhere, away from the ignition coil. And let's disconnect that just so it doesn't fall down in the car. And then, so if we turn the car over, it should try to start. So this is going to test and make sure that the switch will not only provide power and run, but also turn over the car. And it does. All right, so good. So that more or less means that our switch is working. It's probably not the best test, but I'm not a professional, and that's kind of the best way I could think to do it. So now that we've confirmed the engine will turn over from the key switch, let's hook the coil back up and see if it'll start. I know we're going to plug this back in, and the ignition is off, by the way, right now. Don't do this while it's on. Like I said before, when I got this, it would start but not run unless you kept the key in the run position. So let's go see if it'll turn over and start. And it does. Clearly we have some exhaust leaks, and alternator's not hooked up, but it does run. So that's A+. So my next thing is I kind of came over here and started looking at the other wires that are under here. Thankfully, it's an old Jeep, so there's not too many. And I could tell that there's a bunch of wires that come over here to the alternator and the voltage regulator that's down here. And if you look at this, it's disconnected right now, but you know, there's some broken wires. There's a bunch that are in pretty bad shape here. So clearly this is not going to charge anything, but that's another project. To be honest, it's an old Jeep. It seems to have kind of healed itself. I don't quite know why it starts now. I can only assume that it's an issue with the switch hanging under the dash. I did tighten the connections when I reinstalled it, so perhaps that was the issue that they were having. We'll see. That's where I'm at. I've got this to work on, and the next project's going to be to try to get the lights to work. The dimmer switch is not hooked up correctly, and yeah, going to keep plugging away at it, but we'll give you guys an update as I move along, and hopefully have something for you soon. Thank you.